Good morning, everyone. This is Father Nate, missionary priest in Italy, and thanks for joining us today, July 18th, on No Greater Delight, our podcast on Marian feasts and Marian meditations. Well, today we have a number of very interesting feasts. Let's start off with what Orsini tells us. He says they celebrate Our Lady of Victory in Toledo, Spain, so called from a signal victory which was gained over the Moors by Alphonsus IX, King of Castile, in the year 1202. After having a flag carried on which was the picture of Our Lady. That's interesting. And now we have two very surprising sort of events. The first is Santa Maria Greca in Corrado, Bari in Italy. Literally that means Holy Mary the Greek. Okay, so this is very interesting. In order to summarize the event, it says here, a mysterious image appears with the sound of a bell, after having appeared in vision to a pious priest in the place where he invoked her. The image is still very visible today, and the inside of a subterranean, on the basement of a fortified tower. Okay, so here's the story, and why is she called Holy Mary the Greek? All right, so we'll go down to Corato in Bari in Italy. The year is 1656, and there is a very grave, serious plague going around the region of Naples and Puglia, right? And so the people of Corato, which is now in the Bari province, had many, many victims. They appealed to science and medicine for human remedies, and it didn't work. So the people, who were both downfallen and fearful, made recourse to their holy patrons, and principally the Blessed Virgin Mary. Now, the elderly people in the town knew, according to a very old tradition, that in the basement or underneath one of the 12 towers that surrounded the city, the tower that looked towards the southeast, which was called the Greek Tower, there should have been a miraculous image of Our Lady. Okay, this was the tradition that they had, that there was this image hidden there, right? So many of them thought that if in this time of great trouble, if the icon were exposed to public worship, the place would be liberated from the terrible suffering. Okay, so what did they do? Many people went down to the tower. They tried to make a little hole so they could get into this tower, but they didn't see anything but a dark and humid place, right? So they never actually found an image of Our Lady in those times, right? So the pious and wise priest, Don Francesco Loidice or Lo Giudice, it says also named Saccone, for whatever reason, he might have been a member of one of the confraternities, went by there and he saw so many people gathered together. And he said, well, this isn't a good idea because you'd all get sick because you're all together. And also, he was also worried about their faith, that they might fall into superstition or, something terrible might happen. So he tried to get the people to go away from the tower, right? But in vain, right? In fact, the people had lit a votive lamp, right? And they kept calling out to Our Lady. And so the priest, he's like, okay, we're going to find out if there really is anything. So he had them make that little hole bigger, right? So much so that people could actually get inside the tower. It was enough that a man could pass through, right? And so then with lamps, he and a group went in. But when they got in there, they didn't see any image, right? All he saw was a little tiny window and some traces of an old picture, right? Something had been painted there, but they didn't know what it was. And so what did he do? So as he was leaving, he was leaving the tower, he felt somewhat uncertain. He wasn't quite sure what to do. So he prayed to Our Lady and also prayed to God. And then it was the dawn of July 17th, 1656, while the pious priest was prayer, they had a vision of Our Lady in the very same, like the image that today you find, the image that's called Santa Maria Greca. And so Mary said to him, "Courage, my beloved child. Console this afflicted people, because very soon they will be liberated from this tremendous evil, this tremendous suffering from God's anger, if they dedicate themselves in my honor and to my honor and to my praise. That underground passage that is very well known to you." Well, okay. So, anyways, Our Lady said, "Okay, well, they need to honor me though in that underground passage." Okay. Our Lady disappeared, leaving the priest with great peace and consolation. When the day dawned, he went all the way to Trani, where the archbishop was, right? So he asked him, what do you think? What should I do? And he got permission to transform that basement of that tower into a little oratory for public, praise and worship. Not praise and worship like, charismatic music, but you know what I mean. So the bishop gave him the permission, and so it was the day after, July 18th, the third Saturday of the month, early in the morning, with various workers. He went to that opening, right, in order to clean it out, to clean out the walls, put plaster over the walls, and then make the ground level in order to make it like a nice place of prayer, right? So the pious priest, he also called a painter, trying to describe this image of Our Lady that he saw, right? However, the painter made various rough drafts, and the priest said, no, it's not like that. No, it's not like that. So it was around the midday when this pious priest, with the people there united, began to ask Our Lady to help. They prayed the Angelus. And then, while that prayer went to heaven, as it says, from underneath the ground, they heard it says a melodious and ringing of a little bell. This sign was accompanied by another, right? There was there who was a blind woman, a certain Beatrice del Oglio, who miraculously had her vision restored, right? And pointing out to the place where the image had appeared, she said, "Look, it's Mary. Look, it's Mary." And so at that shout, the priest had to stop his prayer, and he recognized the image that appeared. He said, "That's it. That's the image that appeared to me in my vision," right? And so news that miraculous event spread throughout the land. And so it's interesting because from that day, the plague stopped completely in Corato, right? Even though the cities that were nearby still had many many cases, right? But they were fine, right? It says, in fact, in Andria, a city that's just a couple of kilometers from Corato, the population was reduced by a third, right? More than 14,000 people died, right? They were freed from their sufferings in January of 1657, so many years later, because they made a vow to Saint Sebastian. Anyways, so now that place has become a place of pilgrimage, right? And she is known as the special protectress of Corato. Now, we have to get down to the image, why is it called Santa Maria Greca, right? It's because if you look at the image, it's Our Lady, assisted on the clouds, with the child Jesus on her knees, right? Surrounded by 8 angelic figures. And it looks like she actually has a shepherd's staff in her right hand. Interesting. But it's interesting because her clothes appear as typically Greek dresses. And the child Jesus' tunic is also Greek, right? It's very interesting. Our Lady's dress is a very bright red, and her mantle is blue, right? So it's just interesting. There's a lot of details here, right? But it's clearly that it's very a Greek style, right? They say okay, well, we don't know why she's technically called Greek. I mean, the image, you look at her clothes, it looks Greek. Some think that it's because it was found in what they call the Torre Greca, right? Who knows if that was built by the Greeks? Nobody really knows. But anyways, that is the story. So very interesting. But we still have one more. We have Notre Dame de Bonne Délivrance, Our Lady of Good Deliverance, right? In Neuilly-sur-Seine, Haute-de-Seine, in Ile-de-France, in France, right? So since the year 1000, the thousands, it says, the Church of Saint-Étienne-de-Grès in the old Latin quarter of Paris had a chapel to Our Lady of Good Deliverance, right? During the Wars of Religion and the Counter-Reformation, her confraternity had 12,000 members, including the King and Queen of France. In 1587, a young man by the name of Francis de Sales, who felt his salvation in danger, recovered confidence and joy after saying the prayer that was found before her statue. Well, years later, in 1790, the revolutionary government closed the Church of Saint-Étienne-de-Grès In 1791, 1 year later, the church's furnaces were advertised for sale, but a devoted countess, Mesdames de Carignan Saint-Maury, bought the statue of the Black Virgin and moved it to her lodgings in Paris, right? So she actually bought this image of Our Lady of Good Deliverance. The following year, the church was destroyed. In 1793, the countess herself was sent to prison, where she met the Sisters of St. Thomas of Villanova, right? They were all in jail together. They all got out together the next year, but when the government threatened to disband the sisters, Madame de Carignan vowed to give them the statue if they were spared. In 1806, she fulfilled her vow. The image was installed in the sisters' chapel in Paris, moving them with them in 1908 to their present mother house in the suburb of Neuilly-sur-Seine. So it's on a pedestal above the altar, which is the statue itself is a life-size polychrome limestone statue from the 1300s, right? It's a classic Gothic standing mother and child, but coal black, right? The Black Virgin wears a white veil and a dark blue mantle ornamented with a fleur-de-lis over a red robe. Every day the sisters gather in chapel to pray on behalf of families, the sick, religious vocations, those who have entrusted themselves to the Virgin, and peace in the world. So the feast of Our Lady of Good Deliverance, which they say is rarely celebrated, is, in fact, July 18th. That's the day the Vatican officially approved the congregation of the Sisters of St. Thomas of Villanova in 1873, right? There used to be a procession on May 1st held by her confraternity, which in recent years has actually been revived, right? So that's very interesting, and that's what we're celebrating today in the Marian world on July 18th. For today's Marian meditation, taken from the book by Father Ildefonso Villar, we continue with Meditation 89, entitled The Heart of Our Lady, and today we consider the second point, the heart of God's Mother. We are overtaken by awe when plunging into the depths of such a sublime mystery. Mary is the Mother of God. Is there anything greater and more incomprehensible on the part of God than to have wanted a woman as his own real mother? And it was Mary who was called to the high glory of becoming the Mother of God. This mystery contains infinite wonders. According to it, Mary gave earthly life to God. This is what is meant by being a mother, to give life to another being. Mary gave human life to the Son of God, who consequently became her son. St. Augustine, pondering over this sweet reality, exclaimed, Christ's flesh, Mary's flesh. And in fact, her flesh, her blood, her life, her heart were in truth the flesh, the blood, the life, and the heart of God. Without the intervention of any other paternity except that of God, the Son of God was exclusively her son. That is why Mary is more mother than any other mother. God and she. No one else had any share in this sublime maternity. No mother could exclaim more rightly than she when she pressed her son to her bosom and said, You are mine and wholly mine. Jesus Christ was a real man. He had a body capable of suffering like ours, a human heart similar to ours, liable to be tenderly moved and feel all our miseries and sorrows as his own, and it was all thanks to Mary. Mary, exclaims St. Augustine, is mother of Jesus, mother of God much more according to the Spirit than according to the flesh. We may say that Mary conceived Jesus also in her heart. What tender currents must have been established between the maternal heart of Mary and the heart of the child God. Those realizations so surpass our understanding when we think of them that it looks to us that the very humanity of Mary vanishes into the perfect fusion with divinity itself. It looks as though the infinite distance that separates God from creatures has all of a sudden been obliterated. For today's reading from The Admirable Heart of Mary by St. John Eudes, we continue with chapter 9, He hath showed might in his arm. Again, all of this is the commentary of St. John Eudes on that magnificent prayer of Mary, the Magnificat, which she says when she meets St. Elizabeth. Among the works of God, some are attributed to his hands and fingers, like the heavens. The heavens are the works of thy hands. I will behold the heavens, the work of thy fingers. That's from Psalm 101, verse 26, and Psalm 8, verse 4. Others are attributed to one of his fingers. This is the finger of God. That's from Exodus 8, 19. Like the wonders that he had performed through Moses in Egypt. But the incomparable work of the Incarnation is attributed neither to the hands or fingers of God. It belongs to the arm of his divine might,
because it incomparably surpasses all the other works of his adorable majesty. It is an admirable thing, says St. John Damascene, that he who is perfect God becomes perfect man. This God-man is the newest of all things. Indeed, he is the only new being that has ever appeared or ever can appear under the sun, in whom the infinite power of God is made manifest, far more than in all that the universe encompasses. For what is there greater and more admirable than to behold God made man? There's a note here that St. John Eudes doesn't actually give a reference for that quote. Okay. Let us now listen to Richard of St. Victor, who, in explaining these words of the royal prophet, descendit sicut pluvia in velus, that's Psalm 71:6, like he descends like rain on the meadows, I think, exclaims, "O the glory of the Blessed Virgin! O marvelous grace! Admirable dignity of the mother of this divine child! O what goodness on the part of this adorable child, who, being the Son of God, wills to become the Son of Mary! O what dignity of the mother of Jesus, to possess the fruit of fertility together with the flower of virginity! What a marvel to behold a virgin who bears a son! Not just an ordinary son, but a son who is God. Truly, the glory of Mary is a glory altogether unique. Descendit sicut pluvia in velus. He will descend like rain upon fleece. There you go. Who will descend? The only begotten Son of God. Whence and to what place will he descend? From the adorable bosom of the Divine Father into the virginal bosom of his mother. So speaks Richard of St. Victor.
Hello, and we hope that you enjoyed listening to our Marian podcast. In the spirit of Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, we say to you that there is no greater delight than to spread the devotion of Our Lady. We hope you share these sentiments and encourage you greatly to share with a loved one. Know that you are always in our prayers, and we ask that you keep us in yours. God bless.